Welcome to Sam Tries to Do a Serious Video. So as usual, we're going to start with a small disclaimer. I haven't ironed my t-shirt. I don't want to hear about it in the comments. This isn't 7 tips on how to look put together. If you would like that video, comment below. Don't comment below. I'm not going to make that video. Also, I have a cold. It's my second one of 2019. So that's great. So for anyone who doesn't know, in October last year, I had a bit of a midlife crisis. I quit my job and went to Walt Disney World completely on my own. It's kind of what triggered all of this kind of stuff that's now happening. I flew out there completely alone. I didn't know anybody that was out there when I went. I had a couple of friends that I was potentially going to meet, but I ended up not meeting any of them. And any friends that you see in the solo trip videos, I made while I was out there. So I thought I would do a little video on my top 7 tips for anyone that's considering a Walt Disney World solo trip. Kind of really had to reel it in, and I've just done my top 7 general tips. I could go into a lot more specifics if people want that, so let me know. But no, for now we'll stick to the 7. So tip number 1, you. So ideally, when you're planning and going on a trip on your own, you want to know who you are, why it is you're going on your own, and what you want to get out of the trip. And then that's really going to help you understand how you want to spend your time. So maybe you're someone who's really confident, really outgoing, and you just want to go make loads of new friends that like Disney. That's fair enough. Maybe you're someone who's a little bit shy, a little bit introverted, and you just want to go to prove to yourself that you can. Or maybe you're someone who's really confident and you're used to going with big groups of people in the past, and you kind of just want to go and just be on your own and just get everything that you want to do done. All of these are completely fair and valid points, and once you do sort of understand those 3 main aspects of who you are, why you're going on your own, and what you want to get out of the trip, you can just keep that in mind for every other thing when you're planning this trip, and you're going to have a better time. It's just going to really help with your confidence going around the park, and it will make planning everything a lot easier. Need you to get through this. So tip number 2, make a schedule. And I know that sounds like a generic one that everybody says, but stick with me because I've got a little twist for you. But no, if you're anything like me, you'll have already created a detailed itinerary before booking the trip, after booking the trip, and then once you've actually managed to bag your fast passes. I think that's completely normal. I think it's a great way to cope with the wait. I want you to go into as much detail. I want to know which parks you're going to be at on what days. I want to know what shows you're going to do, what rides, what fast passes, any dining reservations. And do you know what I want you to do with that schedule? I do not want you to stick to it. That's right, I told you there'd be a twist. But no, I think when you turn up to Walt Disney World on your own, the minute you walk into the first park, which is usually Magic Kingdom, I don't understand anyone that doesn't go to Magic Kingdom on the first day of their trips. I mean, who would do that? It's the first day of Disney, so we're doing Epcot today. No, when you first get into the parks, it's really easy to feel completely overwhelmed, especially when you're there on your own. And if you have some form of schedule, it's really going to help you sort of stay focused on what you actually want to do, and you'll have less time to worry about the fact that you're there on your own. I also think it's really helpful to set yourself some goals. You can set yourself the 4 park challenge. You can decide that you're going to go to Magic Kingdom and do every single ride, show, and attraction that you can. It's a mammoth task, but when you're own, that's the easiest way to do it. Maybe on one day you want to do all of the rides over in Hollywood Studios, all the shows, and then you want to go over to Epcot and get everything in Epcot done as well. One thing I did is I took little sheets of every ride and attraction in the theme parks and just decided that I was going to cross off all the ones I've already done on previous visits and prioritise the ones that I haven't done and try and get as many of those done as possible. And then that works really well. So if you are someone that wants to make friends when you're out there, you can easily scrap all of those and make new plans with the friends. But if you're someone that doesn't want to make friends, or maybe wants to make friends but sort of struggles initially to do so, it's going to help you because, especially when you do the challenges, it'll still let you feel rewarded at the end, where you might be lacking in the social reward. Does that make sense? But no, set yourself the challenges, set yourself a schedule, and if you want to, you can stick to it. But you might meet people when you're out there that have different plans, and you might want to move your plans around, and you'll be juggling things. And yeah, I just think it's really important to remind yourself that as much as it is nice to do everything that you can, it's better to kind of enjoy the things that you actually want to experience. And I think that's a mistake a lot of people make, is you just cram and cram and cram, and then you kind of, at the end of the holiday, you don't really remember any specific moments. And whenever I go, it's always the chilled out moments that I actually prefer. But no, maybe you need a lie-in in the morning that you didn't schedule. Maybe you plan to be at a park all day, but after about midday, you're kind of tired and want to just go chill by the pool. That's absolutely fine because it's your holiday. If your schedule is there, you'll be able to work out what shows you might miss that day that you did plan and what other days you could potentially put that show in. It really helps you juggle everything around. And I think an extremely important part of scheduling that I didn't plan adequately for brings me on to tip number 3, which is plan adequate rest. So when you're on holiday on your own, particularly in Walt Disney World, it's very easy to just plan to do, like I say, as much as possible, and you just end up burning out really quickly, especially if you go in the warmer months. The Florida sun can be quite unforgiving, and if you're forgetting to eat and drink, like I did, yeah, I'm just having a really good time. Really good time. Then yeah, you can burn out very quickly, and it could then impact the rest of your holiday. So yeah, I think you should schedule rest days periodically. Rest days are one of my favourite things to do, and it doesn't even just have to be lying in bed or going to the pool. You can go to a water park. Water parks are great. I went to Typhoon Lagoon, I think, twice on my solo trip. The first time I went, I concentrated more on doing the rides and things, but then the second time I went, I think I maybe went on 2 water slides and just spent a lot of time in the lazy river or just lying on the sunbed. Chill days don't mean that you have to miss out on experiencing things. They just mean that you can take it a little bit easier. And maybe if you're someone that doesn't like the idea of taking a whole day to chill, give yourself a morning off, give yourself an evening off. Maybe when you're in the park already, just give yourself like 2 hours in the middle of the day just to chill out, or plan a nice dinner that you're going to go sit down. It's it's so important to rest. And I realise that I really should practice what I preach. I mean, so far in January, I have given myself very little rest time, and this is my second cold of the year. So I'm a living testament to the fact that you need to plan adequate rest. Rest days are so important for a number of reasons. They recharge you, so you're going to get that energy back to keep you going for the rest of the holiday. They allow for flexibility in your schedule as well. So like I say, if you do meet people and you decide your plans change, you've got those rest days as kind of buffer days that maybe if you were going to miss a show because of plans that you've changed, you can chuck that show in on your rest day, spend the entire day doing whatever you want, and then just make sure you're in the park for that show in the evening. It's so good for things like that. And yeah, you can move your rest day if you need to. Maybe you plan to have 4 days of going all day, every day in the parks, and then a rest day. But when you get there, after 2 days, you find yourself wearing a little bit thin. Just move your rest day. Just move your rest day forward 2 days, and then take it from there. And you can keep juggling around like that if you need to. One thing I always recommend to do is, even on your rest days when you are scheduling, still book fast passes for your rest days, because then that gives you that flexibility. You can cancel the fast passes if you feel like you're not going to use them on the day, but generally speaking, it's better to have them there, and you can kind of flutter everything around if you need to. A few of my favourite spots for just chilling in the parks is the hubgrass in front of the castle. I like to hang around in Africa in Animal Kingdom, particularly because the dancers, and is it Buradika, however you say that, they perform. They're one of my favourite things to do. Pandora's a really nice area to chill out in. I will say Hollywood Studios is a park that I don't really have a rest place that I like in there. If anyone has any recommendations for a good place to chill out in Hollywood Studios, put it in the comments. And Epcot, actually. There's a few places, but generally speaking, Epcot is an unshaded park, in my opinion. And I remember I got food there once on my solo trip and could not find somewhere to sit. And it was really hot, and I just kind of stood and ate. But no, doing nothing is one of my favourite things to do already. So doing nothing in Disney World parks is it's just an explosion of joy for me. But yeah, moving along. Tip number 4, utilise your resources. So we have already touched very briefly on fast passes already, but first, somebody who may be watching that doesn't know what they are, when you book a Disney ticket, Disney allows you to book 3 fast passes per day for each day that your ticket is valid. And when you pre-book them, just so you're aware, they have to be for the same park, so you can't book one ride in Epcot, one in Hollywood Studios, and then one in Magic Kingdom. If you book your first ride in Magic Kingdom, they will have to be for Magic Kingdom. And you can book those 30 days in advance. If you're staying on Disney property, you can actually sort of pre-book those 60 days in advance. So you can kind of get the better rides like Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, Flight of Passage, and Stinky Dog Dash are ones that are usually quite impossible to get a fast pass for. Not impossible, but it's harder. Fast passes are amazing for any planning, but they're so important when you're there on your own, because some of the time that your schedule and everything else won't help you is when you're stood in line for something. But no, when you're on your own, lines tend to feel a little bit longer and a little bit more awkward. So it's quite important to utilise anything that you can that will shorten those. But one really good thing about the Disney Fast Passes is A, the feature's currently free, and B, once you've used your 3 ones that you've pre-booked, you can then book one more at a time for the rest of the day until they won't let you anymore, which is usually about an hour or half an hour before the park closes. I might be slightly wrong on that, but it's somewhere around that time. And you can do that around the park. There's little terminals and kiosks sort of dotted around. If you're not sure, you can ask a cast member. But my personal favourite way of doing it is through the next important resource, which is the My Disney Experience app. As soon as you're even thinking about booking your Disney holiday, you should be downloading the My Disney Experience app. It's the best feature that you can utilise when you're going around the parks, alone or not. As I say, you can pre-book your fast passes, you can do that through the My Disney Experience app, and then once you've used those, you can do one more at a time. Now, a really good feature that not everybody knows is that as soon as you've scanned your ticket or your Magic Band for that final fast pass that you've got, even while you're in the queue before you've got on that ride, the My Disney Experience app will let you book your next fast pass. So you can have your next fast pass lined up before you're even out of the current fast pass queue that you're in. It's so good and so helpful. I think when I was in Magic Kingdom on my first day, I think I did like 11 to maybe even 18 rides fast pass. I don't know, I haven't done the math. I probably should have done that. But it's insane. Magic Kingdom's probably the best for fast passes. They've just got more rides, so they tend to not run out of fast passes as quickly. It's mainly rides like Winnie the Pooh, The Little Mermaid, the Teacups, the Barnstormer, Magic Carpets with Aladdin, Dumbo. Rides like that you can tend to fast pass on the day pretty easily. And take that with a pinch of salt, because I'm very aware that in the sort of peak season of like school holidays and things, that fast passes are probably more likely to become gold dust. But I've never been in the busy months, so I don't know. But it's not even just fast passes that the My Disney Experience app is good for. You can do dining reservations, you can see what time shows are on, you can look at the park map, which shows all the different wait times, which is very handy. You can see your photo pass photos, and one very, very good feature is mobile order. I feel like a lot of people already know what mobile order is, but for any of you that don't, you order the food through your app, and then you just press I'm here as you're approaching the place that you've ordered it from, and then they just get it ready, stick it on a tray and give it to you, so you don't have to queue for food. They're all just really helpful features. I mean, if you're someone that does suffer from anxiety in some form of way, or you're not great with crowds, Disney kind of accommodate for it as much as they can with the numbers that they have in their parks. So, funnily enough, another handy feature that is there for solo travellers are the solo rider lines. Who'd have guessed? Solo rider lines are really handy. Disney don't tend to have too many of them. They have one in Epcot for Test Track, they have one in Animal Kingdom for Expedition Everest, and they have one in Magic Kingdom. That's a lie. Test Track over in Epcot, Expedition Everest over in Animal Kingdom, and Rock and Roller Coaster in Hollywood Studios. I saw a video somewhere where someone said it was like the alliteration title rides, which helps. So R&R for Rock and Roller, TT for Test Track, and EE for Expedition Everest. Just a handy way to remember. Does anyone else ever find that with solo rider lines? Is like I tend to look the other way when it's like a family of 2 to 4, but you can get like a group of like 12 college kids in the solo rider line because they don't want to wait 20 minutes longer for the actual line. I found this in Test Track more than any of the others. And hey, I'm all for utilising whatever you need to get the best trip. And if you're pressed for time, solo rider lines are great for like reducing that time. But when you're a party of 12, that still makes you a bellend. And my final like main resource that I recommend, don't know what that is. The final resource that I think is really important to utilise isn't free like the others, and that's the early morning magic hours or the after hour events. If you've watched my previous vlogs, you'll understand that I've done the Toy Story Land early morning magic hours twice. The first time I went, I think the longest wait I had for Slinky Dog was about 20 minutes. And the second time I went, we did Slinky Dog 7 times. So it depends on ticket sales on how busy it's actually going to be. But generally speaking, your wait time is going to be drastically reduced if you do those. I don't remember the exact price. I think it was somewhere between sort of £70–80. I'll leave the correct amount below. I actually had a really hard time trying to find where to buy the tickets as well when I first found out about them. So I'll leave a link in the description below to the Toy Story Land one. It's not an affiliate link or anything, just to help you. It does cost a bit of money, but I would say it's worth it, particularly if you don't want to be waiting in crowds, or if you really want to experience sort of Toy Story Land. I know Pandora has one as well. I think it just helps you not have to deal with those queues. And speaking of dealing with queues, that leads us comfortably on to my tip number 5, which is interact with people. Yeah. So, I mean, the most obvious one is when you're in a line, speak to the people around you. It is easier said than done. Most times you will find that you are around people that are quite chatty, are quite friendly. But sometimes you can be around a group that you're a little bit uncomfortable with, or maybe someone that is just a bit more socially awkward. And although I encourage speaking to the people around you, also read the room. If someone's not really feeling the conversation or seems a bit awkward, don't keep attacking them with words. The solo rider lines are actually particularly good for this because 9 times out of 10 you're going to be around someone else that's on their own, or they might not necessarily be completely out there on their own, but they might be spending the day on their own. Either way, really good to find other people that you might be able to spend a bit more time on your holiday with. So nowadays it seems like you do have to wait anywhere between half an hour and an hour to get a decent seat or spot for a show. There are obviously ways to cheat the system a little bit, but generally speaking, you're going to be waiting a while for the show. There are so many people around you that even if you don't like 95% of the people you're surrounded by, there's still that 5% that you might have a good time talking to. If you've seen my solo trip videos, you'll notice at one point I'm in the Fantasmic show, not on stage, just in the crowd. During Fantasmic, I made friends with a guy called Christian, and he was actually sat next to a lady who he then started talking to as well. It was actually a really awkward encounter because as soon as the Pocahontas segment came on, he really went in on Pocahontas. Like, he would just relentlessly slagged her off. And then the woman next to him was like, "Pocahontas is my favourite Disney princess." And I was like, oh, this is really uncomfortable. One other interesting way of getting some social interaction and get people talking, even just for a little bit, is ride pass photos. That's right, we think outside the box on this channel. Cut to a montage of like 50 other Disney vloggers also recommending this exact tip. So it's kind of a given that when you're on your own, you're going to be sat with people in a ride vehicle that you don't necessarily know. So think up a pose, pull an expression, do something odd or bizarre or funny in the ride photo, and then 9 times out of 10, when you get off that ride vehicle, the other people that are in the same photo as you will go, "Oh, look what he's doing, ha ha ha." And then they'll turn to you, laugh, and they might start talking to you. Or they just laugh at you and leave. But no, that was one of my favourite ways of interacting with people because it was short, it was delightful, and I could leave straight away. For anybody wondering why the camera keeps moving, you're blue tacked to a sound speaker, so... Tip number 6. Plan one thing outside of your comfort zone. Now that can be something as simple as booking a sit-down dining reservation. I kind of did this, but I kind of cheated. I actually booked mine for Be Our Guest restaurant. It's something I wanted to do for the past 2 times that I went but never got around to doing. Now for breakfast and lunch, it is actually quick service, technically, and I went for lunch. But you order your food as you go in, and then you sit down, they bring it to you, and you're still sat there, you're still eating on your own. So I think it still counts. I'm going to count it. I did it. But no, dining alone can be intimidating, especially if you haven't done it before. So yeah, I would recommend doing something like that. That is going to make you feel a little bit uncomfortable. But then once you get back from the trip, you're going to be like, huh, I did that. I did a thing. As if getting on the flight and going wasn't already doing the thing. But it doesn't just have to be dining. There are other things that you could do. Maybe it's just that you decide that you've always wanted to be a knight in Tales of Belle, and you want to get up and do that in front of a room full of strangers, predominantly children. Maybe you always see the dancers at Animal Kingdom, and this time you think, sod it, I'm going to get up and join them. Maybe you're going to go to Rising Star Karaoke over at City Walk and get up on stage and sing with a live band. There are so many things that you could do that if you were with other people that you knew, you might find cringe, and you might still find extremely cringeworthy knowing that strangers would see you do it. If there's something that you've always wanted to do but think is a little bit awkward or embarrassing, when you're there on your own, it's the time to do it. But no, I want you to do at least one thing where the sheer thought of it makes you quake with nerves. And I want you to do it. I want you to do it without caring who sees or what these people might think of you. And that brings us on to my final tip. Tip number 7. Realize that nobody knows or cares that you're in Disney World on your own. Most people will just assume that you're there with family, but you've kind of gone off on your own for the day. And even if they realize that you're there on your own, they won't care. Nobody really realizes or cares. If they want to lose sleep over the fact that you're in Disney World on your own, that's their problem. They can do that. That's fine. But it's your holiday. You're not going to care about that. It's really important when you've spent all this money and already taken these brave steps to let yourself down over other people's opinions. It just seems dumb. And I get where you're coming from, but you just need that liberating moment where you're like, I don't care. I do not care. You're here. It's your holiday. You do what the hell you want. Don't care what anyone thinks. But no, those are my top 7 tips for your Disney World solo trip. If this was helpful to you, please let me know. I could go into a lot more detail on all aspects of it. I could talk about planning. I could talk about scheduling. I could talk about booking the actual thing. I could talk about when you're in the parks, how to reschedule. Possibilities are endless. Here are the notes just from preparing for this video. I really had to rein it in. But there's a lot of information, so let me know. I'm planning 2 more trips this year to Disney World, so there'll be some more Disney vlogs coming in the future. I've got a few other ideas planned as well, and I'm just kind of having fun with this channel so far, so I hope you've enjoyed. I would like you to comment below your favourite place to chill and rest in the parks. And if you want to leave your own like tips for solo trips and things like that as well, put that all down there, and we'll have a little chat. We'll help each other out. That'd be cool. And I think that's everything I wanted to say. Yeah, think so. Probably not. Bye.